Okay, let's bring in now former CIA Moscow station chief Dan Hoffman. He's also a Fox News contributor. Dan, always great to get your take whenever we're talking about matters to do with Russia. So we're still waiting on this response from Russia on perhaps some sort of a ceasefire agreement. We don't know if we're going to get it. This is what the president said today when he was asked by a reporter if he thinks that Russia's playing him. Watch.
But you're going to know soon.
Do you think Russia's playing you?
No, nobody's playing me. I'm trying to help. This was Biden's war. By the way, by me getting involved, they'll say, oh, it's Trump. This is not Trump's war. This is Biden. This is a war that should have never happened.
Okay, so he says no one's playing him, and he seems still optimistic that he can get some sort of a deal done. What do you think?
Well, I think what the president's doing right now is saying that we are not going to stick with negotiations for an unlimited amount of time. I think there's been enough time where the negotiations have taken place, enough time for Director of CIA Ratcliffe to do what he does best, recruit spies and steal secrets and provide the president with the sort of analysis he needs on Vladimir Putin's assessment of these negotiations and whether there is a way forward. I think the president's making it clear this is the last best chance for a negotiated settlement. Now, what happens if there's no deal and we walk away from negotiations? That's a separate matter on which the president hasn't been specific.
Well, that is my follow-up, because Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, put it this way today. He said that if it's not moving forward, he says, quote, I think we're just going to move on. It's not our war. We have other priorities to focus on. Move on, Dan. What does that mean to you?
Well, it might mean that the Secretary of State moves on and the Special Envoy Witkoff moves on. It doesn't mean that the United States support for Ukraine ends. Look, the president's right. The Biden administration failed to deter Russia, and that's why Russia launched their attack in February of 2022. But that's in the past, and what we've got right now is the largest, most destructive land war in Europe since World War II. And so U.S. foreign policy will need to take that into account. China's watching very carefully to see whether we allow Vladimir Putin to continue to target Ukraine with the sort of impunity we saw last Sunday, on Palm Sunday, when he struck Ukraine, and has continued to violate all the ceasefire negotiations that we've held thus far. So what I would hope is that we look for other ways to assist Ukraine, that Europe would do a lot of the heavy lifting, and that Ukraine would be able to continue to do what they need to retain their independence. Remember, Putin's strategic objective from the beginning has been to overthrow the government in Kyiv and install a puppet regime. Putin's losing. He's suffered hundreds of thousands of casualties. Finland and Sweden are now NATO members. President Trump cares a lot more about those casualties. He talks about it often, about the death and destruction and the soldiers being killed. It's hard when our president cares more about the fate of Russian soldiers and Ukrainian civilians than Vladimir Putin does.
And there's nothing that is slowing him down. I mean, he might, like you said, he might be losing, but even the holiest day for Christians is not slowing him down. This is President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. This is what he said on X today. He's talked about a missile strike on Kharkiv, right on top of the city. Dozens of residential buildings were damaged, as well as enterprise and vehicles. 70 people injured, including 5 children, the youngest 2 years old. This minerals deal that is supposed to be signed as early as next Thursday with Ukraine. What do you think is Putin's play if that actually happens?
Well, I've assessed thus far that Putin was conducting these negotiations just as part of his strategy of obfuscation and disinformation. I don't think he ever had any intention of signing a deal unless it was one that was so horrifically bad that Ukraine was forced to give up their independence, and we weren't going to let that happen. So I don't know that I see Vladimir Putin stopping the onslaught against Ukraine. And from what I've learned from the years I spent trying to see the world through the twisted eyes of the KGB operative in the Kremlin, is that you've got to put a bayonet right up against their belly if you want them to come to the negotiating table. That's what President Reagan did repeatedly. His strategy of peace through strength, he held the Soviet Union accountable and called them out publicly with eloquent speeches, and he also stood strong militarily. I think that one of the keys for us is to break Russia's alliance with North Korea and China and Iran, on which they're relying right now to carry on this war. And one way to do that is to force Russia to stop the war. and make it clear that this is a loser for those other countries. I think that's got to be part of the process. I think that when the White House considers our options, when National Security Advisor Mike Waltz huddles with his team, I think that's got to be something he thinks about.
Okay, we'll see what happens in the next couple of days here. Seems like there could be some new developments. Dan Hoffman, always good to see you. Happy Easter.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.